So our DKP sheet is out. It came out like a few days ago, and I finally got the motivation to record a video. So we're gonna be looking at my contribution, which is not the best. You can see I'm in 90th place, but we're still gonna talk about how I did in GT. I mean, honestly, 90th in GT is not bad as free to play, right? So we're gonna look at my contribution. They have all these sheets, which we're gonna go through. So as you know, we did win our KVK 961, and yeah, it's been over for a week now. The DKP sheet, this sheet came out pretty recently, so I just want to talk about my contribution. You can see end power on 75 mil. Took a lot of deads on my main account. I can actually show that right now. So you can see most of my deads which I took were infantry, because I trained a lot of infantry this off season. So mostly infantry. I run 2 infantry marches, 2 cav marches, and 1 archers. So you can see obviously I have a lot more infantry and cav than archers. So a lot of deads, all T5, oh not all T5, but like mostly T5 deads I took, maybe like 150k T4. Farm deads, so I have 3 farms, all city, all 25, which I brought into this KVK. Decent amount of deads, I mean, nowhere near compared to some of the crazy players we have in 1960. You can see people here took 11 million farm deads, so, you know, 1.2 million is a small chunk, but it's still something. The kills you can see not so great. We're going to break down the kills a little more later, but this is just showing the data which 960 tracked. 75.5 mil kills, not the worst, but not the best as well, and 1.5 billion kill points. So I didn't go super hard this KVK. I could have obviously done a lot more, I think, but the fights were not very interesting, and I didn't feel very motivated to play much this KVK, so it is what it is. You can see the healing. I'm surprised they track healing, but that's probably a good stat to track as well. I didn't heal that much as I thought. I thought I was taking really bad trades, but KP efficiency not the best. I was using T4 for a lot of this KVK as well. I'm not in any of these, but they also track the DKP, deads, efficiency, all that sort of stuff. So, but I'm not in any of these. Going to Kingsland data, so you can see my Kingsland data. I took most of my deads in Kingsland, 1.7 million deads in Kingsland. You might have seen my video where I swarmed a flag. That was in Kingsland. So I took I think 500k deads on that one swarm flag. So yeah, we took a lot of deads in Kingsland. I wanted to drop power anyways. I was getting too fat on power, or too big on power. You can see I did 500 mil KP in Kingsland. Not even 30 mil kills, so a little low, but 150. You can see my rank in GT for Kingsland. Past 7, around the same, around 100th. So 344 mil KP in past 7. Not the best, of course. You can see it's pretty much all T5 as well. Is Kingsland also all T5? Yeah, basically all T5. So, you know, we're hanging around the top 100 approximately. Past 4 is where I did probably the best this whole KVK. You can see at past 4, I did 600 mil KP. Puts me in the top 75, actually. So past 4 is definitely where I did the best, and it all just sort of adds up. 344 mil there, 600 mil there, 500 mil there. It all adds up slowly. Altars is also very, very boring, but we did 2 altar fights, it looks like. 14 mil, where did I do the second one? 19 mil, so pretty dry. But altars are just, you know, 1 march, you have to get whatever you can. I actually did pretty good as a individual player in altars, but yeah. 37th in terms of farm deads, you can see right there. They track a lot of stats. And in main deads, how am I doing? 77th, really? Okay, well, I guess we took a lot of deads. Oh, some people didn't submit their deads. Some people didn't submit their deads. Okay, so probably a little higher in terms of deads, but you can see I didn't do too bad in terms of dead. 2.5 mil, T5 dead rate only. I guess some people don't even have T4, huh? But you know, I use mixed troops in the first zone as well as the second zone. Kingsland, I was like full T5, I believe. So yeah, that's our DKP sheet. I also want to cover my individual data, which I tracked as well. So coming here, now we're going to come here into my data, which I track every KVK. Some of it's going to be a little off, just because I forgot to track the data from the first zone. So like for each commander, I forgot to track the data for the first zone, but the rest will be pretty accurate. So you can see my kills, somehow I got 400k T1 kills. I don't know how, but you know, I just hit whatever I see on the field. You can see my T4 kills hardly went up any, and T5 kills, as you might expect, this was basically against, I was basically fighting against 2049 most of this KVK. So basically all T5 kills, as you can see, the data up here, 74 mil T5, 1.5 mil T4. So that puts me to 75.5 mil kills, which is frankly not a lot, but it is what it is, and 1.5 mil KP. So not bad, but obviously I think it could have done much better. Coming down here, just like some important like achievements. I wouldn't even call this achievement, but this is I think pass four where I did 500 mil KP. This might be pass 7, I don't remember, but this is like my highest kill points I got in like one enemy elimination event. Gear armaments. This is what like everyone asked me for, so I'm just gonna say it again. I have 2 hunters and 1 destructive, so like 3 KVK inscriptions. All my sets are pretty well rounded, I'd say. This set is probably the worst, but we're slowly fixing this set. You can see I don't have full gold on all my sets, and I have 2 T5 boots, 1 on my infantry and 1 on my archers right here. So I'd say this is pretty decent gear, but obviously not what every player runs in Imperium. Obviously, Imperium players are a lot different. So this is what I've been using this KVK. I've been slowly working on it throughout the days, improving it little by little. So this will change over time, but that's where I'm at right now. Coming down here, we're tracking the individual kills now. So I forgot to track, as you can see, past 4. Obviously, I didn't track for altars just because for altar fights I was using different combinations. If you're curious what I was using for altars, I was mainly using, I think Huo with Ragnar was one of my marches, and then I was using Nevsky with Zug. So this was my artifact march. And we also have a Ragnar artifact because I'm playing King of Britain, the KOB mode. So this is the Ragnar artifact. So there's like 2 artifacts which you can get. One is from the bottom one is from the Stratagems. This one you get from a chronicle. One of the chronicles gives you a Ragnar artifact. So I was using these 2 marches for altars. Frankly, there was not much kill points at altars. So this is all I tracked after pass 7. So you can see I like to track by commander so I can see which march is doing the best, obviously. And I can like focus more on that march or maybe try to balance on my other marches that way. So we're starting with old reliable Nevsky Joan. My march I've been using forever. You can see the kills are very high. So currently sitting at 152 mil kills. Just this KVK, it passed 7. So past 7 and Kingsland, I got to 9.783 mil kills. So how I got that is obviously subtract these 2 and then multiply by 2, because the number of kills is a split between the primary and the secondary commander. So whatever I have is half of the march kills, if that makes sense. So whatever number I got here by subtracting this by this, multiplied by 2, that's the amount of kills the march did. So Nev Joan March did that amount of kills. 9.783 mil. Scipio Ragnar was my second march. And for the people wondering why I'm using Scipio primary with Ragnar secondary, it's because when I used Ragnar primary, that march melted. So it's a lot squishier if you run Ragnar primary. So the other way around, just using Ragnar with Scipio like that. So I did try this in the first zone. It was not good for me. It's not performing well. So I swapped to Scipio primary with Ragnar secondary, and it did a lot better for me. So that march got me 8.347 million kills. Coming down here to Huo William. Also note, all my marches are expertise or maxed. So Huo William, I did not have access to Arthur this KVK, so I'm still using William. But next KVK, I will be using Huo Arthur. But for this KVK, we're sticking with Huo William. 8.205 million kills. Coming down here. So I'm using Hermann Zug. You might be wondering why I'm using Hermann primary. There are a few reasons, mainly because of Hermann's march speed in the support tree, which I really like. You can also take versatility. Versatility is also for Zug, but the march speed is the main reason I'm taking the Hermann primary. You also get access to emergency protection, which I think is pretty good in general, just giving a little more tankiness to the march. So honestly, I prefer Hermann primary to Zug Hermann primary and Zug secondary. It felt a lot smoother to me. Didn't do so well on kills, but I liked how the march was performing personally, just seeing my reports. So that did 7.967 million kills. Coming down here to my last march, which is Luce Alex, cut off the other page. We can see Luce Alex did quite well actually, 9.446 million kills. So Luce Alex was definitely one of my higher performing marches. Now coming down here to like the full breakdown. So how we did it this is only including past 7 Kingsland. So I got to around 44 million kills. Now we're going to do kill percentage by march. So how I did kill percentage by march, just divide the number of kills on each march by the total amount of kills. So Nev Joan did my best percentage, which is not unusual. Nev Joan has been doing my best, I think, in my last 4 to 5 KVKs, I believe. So people say Nev Joan is like falling off or a bad march. Frankly, it's probably just good for free to play. That's all I'm going to say. Archers are good for whales, right? Archers are my worst performing march. So yeah, Nev Joan did my best kill percentage per march. Lou Alex was second. Scipio Ragnar 3rd, Huo William 4th, and Hermann Zug was last. So archers are definitely something which I consider sort of a liability for free-to-play just because of how slow they are. Cav is in a really good spot in my opinion. Once I get access to Arthur, I think my Cav marches will really accelerate. Infantry is still in a pretty good spot, I'd say. And we get next-gen infantry pretty soon. Obviously, Alex is probably going to be on the chopping block once next-gen infantry comes along. But yeah, that's my breakdown of my top 5 marches, just by kill percentage. Obviously, this does not include pass 4, but I did most of my kills at pass 7 in Kingsland, so I think this is a pretty good representation of just how each of my marches did this KVK. Okay, now we're going to come down here to our stratagems and / crystal tech. So pass 4, for those of you guys that don't know, there's a special feature in KOB or King of Britain mode where you get to pick stratagems. It's a little different than the Storm of Stratagems KVK. You get access to different stratagems, but some of them overlap. So these are the ones I ran in the first zone: Do or Die, Breakneck, and Kindhearted, which is a hospital buff. I can show you what each of them do, because I have access to them. So Do or Die right here, you'd see you take 10% more, you deal 10% more damage, but you take 2% of your severely wounded go to deads. So it does add up over time, so I don't suggest to take Do or Die if you're like below probably 80 million power, maybe even like 85 million power. So you do want to run this if you want more damage. Some people say it doesn't make much of an effect, but I feel like it's pretty good. So Do or Die, and the other ones are Kindhearted, as you can see, increases your hospital capacity by 100%. So it's basically double hospital. The reason I took it is obviously when I was random teleporting, I didn't want to run the risk of getting swarmed and my hospital filling. So this is a extra security measure, basically I took. So I took in my first zone 2 purples and 1 green. You might not have the same options. So every King of Britain KVK I heard your options are different. So it's sort of random what you'll get in your first zone and what you'll unlock in the next zone. It's sort of weird how it works, but basically just know that you'll not have access to the same stratagems in each KOB or King of Britain KVK. So that's what I had in my first zone. You might have different options to take. Do or Die, 10% all damage. Breakneck is a march speed buff, which is honestly really nice. 10% march speed. And the Kindhearted, which I just showed you, is a hospital buff. But there's a lot of good green options, or like green stratagems, which you can take besides the Kindhearted if you don't want to take that. But for free to play, you'll probably be running something similar: 2 purples and 1 green. Coming down here, my crystal tech for the first zone is pretty sad, as you might expect. This is really all I got. Call to Arms 1 is my main priority when I go to the first zone. So I got that to 6 out of 10. That's really all you get. Yeah. You don't even get farther. Trust me, I had nothing past Call to Arms 1. Unfortunately, I didn't take a screenshot of that, but I did show it on stream. I had nothing past Call to Arms 1. Everything else besides that was just, I think, 1 out of 1, I believe. Or not even unlocked. So you get to 15 mil crystals spent, and that's really as best you'll get as free to play. And Altars in past 6 is a little more interesting. You had access to more stratagems. So this is the artifact stratagem. Let me show you what the other ones do. Breakneck and Do or Die, I still had those two. Far From Home gives you 12% attack while outside your coalition's territory. Pretty solid, because I'm never in my coalition's territory in GT. Martial Talent is just the artifact stratagem. So because I was using Nevsky Zug, Zug is an archer commander, so you want an artifact. Invictus, the reason I was doing Invictus was because I had 2 single target commanders. So I was using Nevsky Zug and Huo Ragnar as my 2 like ruin altar marches, and both of those commanders are single target. Nevsky and Huo are both single target. So Invictus was one I wanted to run just because you get a buff if you use basically single target active skills. So those were my 5 stratagems, which I used for altars or ruin fights. Actually, just altar fights, sorry. But yeah, decent options. Unfortunately, altar fights did not last very long in our KVK. And I wasn't super accurate tracking everything this KVK, but you can see approximately where I'm at. So T2 tech was not finished. I don't usually finish T2 tech, which is basically this tech right here, tier 2 technology, until past 7. That's usually when I finish all my tier 2 technology. So this is what I was just working on. You really just get stuck at tier 2 technology for a very long time as free to play. And that tier 2 tech ultimately sort of holds you up before completing anything further. So you can see I'm all done, but you need to finish all this tier 2 tech here in order to unlock Call to Arms 1 to 10. So basically the order which I always follow is Call to Arms 1 to 6, then come back here, finish all T2 tech, which takes a very long time, then come back here and max Call to Arms 1. That's really as far as you get. So that that's usually when I max this. That's basically KVK's over, honestly. So yeah, and yeah, I had 32 mil crystal, I think, by first altar, and this is 35 mil crystal in this screenshot. Coming down here to pass 7 at Kingsland, I use the same stratagems for pass 7 at Kingsland, using a little different configurations, as you can see. But it's good to like see the different options which you have. But this is generally what I suggest for most free-to-play players to run. Besides maybe do or die, but you should use all these other ones in my opinion. Rousing Drums, which gives a 15% less damage buff, which is huge on my opinion. So this felt like the single best stratagems KVK in my opinion. Rousing Drums. Then you have the Rhythm of War, which increases it's like a buffing specifically for the stratagem. So Rhythm of War basically buffs the Rousing Drums effect. Then Berserker Blood I ran just for more all damage. Then these three are basically the same I've been using for a while. So in my opinion, these are pretty solid stratagems which you can use. For like whales or high spenders, they suggested using the Blood Tempered, but this is not good for free to play. So in general, if you get to pass 7 or Kingsland, I highly suggest using some configuration that looks like this. Definitely the Rousing Drums is the best one in my opinion. Do or Die is very solid if you can afford it as well. And just looking at my crystal spent at pass 7 and Kingsland, you can sort of see how crystal tech looks. Attack formation at 9, teacher tech is done. T3 tech is just done the minimum. Call tolerance 1 is maxed. Then you come further down and this is all you have. That's all. You're done. This is 55 mil crystal spent. So T2 tech is very expensive. Then the requirements to max call tolerance 1 are also pretty expensive for free to play. For the average spender, you'd be at like 110 million crystal, maybe 120 million crystal by Kingsland. So yeah, you're basically max tech if you're spending by Kingsland. But for free to play, this is as far as I got. With moderate chaining, I chained a decent amount, but I sort of stopped maybe like a week before pass 7. One other thing to mention, I forgot to include this, was a lot of people asked me if I was using mixed or like mixed T5 and T4. Only in the first zone pass where pass 4 opens, I was using 66% T5, 33% T4. I think my ratio was about like 120k T4, and I forget how much T5 I was using, but it was roughly 33% T4 in each march. And it did pretty well for me. And the main reason you did mix is because you don't actually have access to this technology right here, Special Medicines, which saves you resources on T5. You don't actually have access to this because I only get up to call tolerance 1 to 6 out of 10. So I only get up to here, which is before all this technology below. So Crystal Tech is a very big limiter for free to play. So you do want to go mix just because if you run full T5, you will be broke. I actually tried using full T5 in the first zone like 4 KVKs ago. It was very expensive. So that's the reason I'm doing mixed. I think it's okay. Obviously not optimal, especially in Imperium KVKs. But you do need to do it as free to play if you want to keep the resources consistent. And then the rest of KVK, Altars, Pass 7, Kingsland, I just suggest using full T5, assuming, of course, you can afford it. And you can see I didn't show this, my resources spent. This is a feature they just added recently. So you can see majority is food. I mainly use food just because I think 2 cav marches both use food. 2 infantry also both use food, I believe. My archers use only wood and stone. So most of my marches are relying on food. Not as much gold just because I was using mixed for the first one. That saves me a lot, trust me. It does add up. And this is a new feature which they added. So you get 10% resources back. It also tracks it for you, which is all pretty nice. So yeah, that's how much I spent. 35 billion resources. Obviously not as much as I expected, but pretty slow KVK in my opinion. And I think that was more or less all I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm going to very briefly look at our, though, season accolades, or like the stats at the end of KVK. So the part I just showed you was from a few days ago, actually. I waited until the season accolades were out, and I wanted to include this at the end. So just looking at the healing, kills, and deads, we're going to go very briefly over this. So as you might expect, Al, Genie, Ang Leo. I think Ang Leo is another account somewhere here as well. But as you might expect, these are big names you might expect. Warthog is another Arvix account as well. In terms of alliance, as you might expect, GT healed the most. 49 second, then all the other kingdoms. In terms of kingdom healing, so like as a kingdom, not just as an alliance, 49 healed the most, which is surprising actually. But I guess if you consider they were healing in their farm alliance as well, They were the top in terms of healing, but in terms of one alliance, somehow GT was the first, which is interesting. Coming down to kills, as you might expect, Al, Genie, Ace, all these names you pretty much hear. Prodigo, Jack from 1093, Osno. This is all pretty common. 1316 is one player. I'm not sure. So it's like Chinese. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. And then Anglio, Blake. More or less all the big names you'd expect. As an alliance, 960 is on top by quite a decent amount. I'm sure some kills are in farm alliances also going to make these numbers a little lower, but 960 is on top by quite a decent amount. In terms of as a kingdom, we're still 3 bill higher, or like 2.5 bill higher in terms of kills, but quite a decent amount more in terms of one alliance. Coming down to deads, as you might expect, Makote is always first in terms of deads, dropping a crazy amount of, that's 369 mil power drop. So Makote goes hard every KVK, so mad respect to him. Prodigo, Addy, Al, boom. So more or less all the players you'd expect. Arvix account, second Arvix account. So yeah, deads are more or less as you expect. I'm not going to go super into detail on this. Looking at the deads in terms of alliance, so decent amount in GT, 49. I'm surprised 1180 took almost as many deads as 49, which is a little surprising considering 1180 is a lot less members. Coming to Kingdom, 2049 took the most deads as a kingdom, which probably just means that they took a lot of farm alliance deads. And, you know, 1962nd, 846 third. So, you know, more or less all as you'd expect. I'm not going to go super into detail on this. I believe Photo did a more in-depth breakdown of all the kingdoms in a recent video. So that's all I'm going to talk about for that. One more thing I want to show you before we conclude this video. We got 2 migrants, which just came in. You might know their names. We got Genie from 2489. So Genie brought one of his biggest accounts. I believe this account was formerly in 3159, if you remember 3159. Then he brought it to 2049. Now it's coming back to 960. So this is Genie's account, which he just migrated. And we have Anglio. If you know Anglio, he has multiple accounts as well. And he brought his 2049 account. This is the one we just fought against in 2049 to 960. I think that's all I wanted to discuss in this video, how I did my KVK, how the KVK is looking at the end, and our future plans. Hopefully we have a good match next KVK, because the last few KVKs have frankly been disappointing, not just for me, but for a lot of people who were expecting some really high quality and big Imperium KVKs. So fingers crossed that we take a big KVK next. Hopefully I can have a fun KVK to stream. And yeah, that's all for this one.